In today's video, we're going to address some of the more recent NHL trade rumors. These rumors involve Phil Kessel of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Torey Krug of the Boston Bruins, Noah Hanifin of the Carolina Hurricanes, and we're also going to address the concerns that the Anaheim Ducks may have with the news that Ryan Kesler may miss the entire next season. And that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams. So if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, today we're addressing some of the more recent NHL trade rumors. Some of these players we've discussed before, but there's further rumors circulating about them and what may go down this offseason. The first thing I want to address, though, is the news that came out of the Anaheim organization via Elliotte Friedman discussing the fact that Ryan Kesler may actually end up being shut down for all of next season. Obviously, he plays a very hard style of hockey and has battled a lot of fairly significant injuries over the years, and he's obviously was banged up a lot this past season as well. So obviously that would be a big blow if he can't play next year. That could force the Ducks' hand into either signing somebody through free agency or making some trades. That would have a major impact on their center ice position as well as their shutdown line. So what could the Ducks end up doing? Obviously there's not a lot of big name centers on the free agent market outside of John Tavares, which is certainly not really the type of player I don't think they'd be looking for. But outside of Tavares, there's not many big name centers on the open market that would really come close to doing anything that what Kesler provides to the Ducks. Now they could end up going with a different route, different type of player, but more likely it's something they're going to have to explore through trade instead. So obviously, like I said, this news just came out yesterday. It's a fairly big impact to the Ducks organization. So how are the Ducks going to react? What should they end up doing? I think it's something they're going to have to address via trade. Like I said, there's not much depth out there on the center ice position through the free agent market this summer. So it will be interesting to see how they proceed. I don't have any rumors as of yet to indicate what action they may take or players they may target. But as of right now, it looks like it's quite possible he may end up sitting out all of next year, which is going to leave a big hole in the center ice position with the Anaheim Ducks. So leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think of this and how the Ducks may end up addressing this major issue with their lineup going into next season. Now jumping into some of these other guys that have been rumored to be on the trade block, obviously the Carolina Hurricanes, as we know, has been well documented that they're open for business and looking to make some major moves to shake things up in the Hurricanes organization here. I know myself, I've heard interviews with Don Waddell where he publicly acknowledged the fact that they're even open to trading players like Jeff Skinner and Justin Falk. So I think they're open to just about anybody. I think Sebastian Aho is probably one of the few players that they wouldn't consider. But a player that keeps coming up in multiple reports is the defenseman Noah Hanifin. Obviously, he's still quite young. He was a high draft pick, and so a lot of people still believe he has a very high potential and a big upside here. So it's a little bit surprising in a way that they seem keen on trading this player. But he's been linked to multiple reports. In Elliotte Friedman's latest 31 Thoughts podcast, he even noted that even the Canucks may actually be a contender to land this player. But there's all kinds of teams that they're looking for defensemen. So, another defenseman that we're going to talk about is Torey Krug of the Boston Bruins. He's apparently on the market as well, as the Bruins seem to want to kind of shore up the size as well as the defensive play on that left side of their defense. Torey Krug is a player who provides a lot of offense, but it seems like the Bruins aren't overly pleased with his 5-on-5 play. And I guess his lack of size and his lack of ability to defend back there on that left side of the decor. Although I think they should be careful with Krug because he is a player that does provide a big offensive punch, and those types of players are hard to find as well. But obviously even Krug and Hanifin are potential players that we might even see possibly swap for each other, although there hasn't been any reports linking the Hurricanes and the Bruins together. With the Hurricanes and Noah Hanifin, there's apparently a lot of teams are showing interest. Like I said, the Canucks were even one. And in that same report was also mentioned that the Canucks apparently are not actively shopping Chris Tanev. So could they hang on to Tanev and maybe look to add another young defender as well? I don't think it's going to be something that would happen right away, because I think it would be first depend on how the Canucks do with the NHL Draft coming up here next month. Based on their draft positioning, it seems quite reasonable. They might get a very solid young defender in the first round anyway, so they may not pursue a player like Hanifin, although you can't really have too many players like that in your lineup or in your organization. Obviously, Hanifin's a player that's already got experience, can jump in right away, whereas the player they drafted in the first round this year may not. So it'll be interesting to see where Hanifin goes. It looks like I've seen enough reports to indicate he's on the market, so it looks as though he likely will be moved. It's just a matter of where, and it's the latest team to be mentioned in those rumors that may be trying to acquire him is the Vancouver Canucks. So we'll wait and see. If you're a Canucks fan, would you be happy with Hanifin coming in? Now, another rumor that I've seen as well regarding Torey Krug was possibly linked to the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers obviously looking for some help on the back end as well, and there was even speculated that maybe they could swap Krug for Klefbom. I'm not really sure that's a deal that would be great for both teams. I think Krug would be a good fit with the Oilers. I don't think there's any doubts about that. I'm not really sure that Oscar Klefbom would be the exact kind of return that the Bruins would be looking for, but from a contract perspective and what the Oilers would be looking for, I think it would probably be good on their end. Not sure on the Bruins side of things, but with Torey Krug's cap hit over $5 million, for them to really make a lot of moves, they're going to have to move some money out. And obviously, he's been a target of speculation. So it looks as though that the Bruins do appear to be actively shopping Torey Krug and to find a way to upgrade on the back end. I do urge them to proceed there with caution, as I think even though they may not be totally pleased with his defensive play, he does bring a lot of offense, and he's one of their most gifted defensemen in that regard. So they need to be careful there that they don't actually take a step backwards, because moving the puck and creating offense is arguably just as important here. So we'll see what the Bruins do, but Torey Krug is a player that's been mentioned yet again, so it looks as though he may be actually on the move. Now, the last guy we're going to talk about today is Phil Kessel of the Pittsburgh Penguins. We did mention this once before, a few weeks ago, and I kind of personally, I shaked it off and said, you know what, here's the rumor that's coming out. I really didn't think there was anything to it. I could not see the Penguins moving this guy. However, the reports keep coming up and his name keeps getting mentioned. Now, this latest report comes out of a Pittsburgh radio station where the source there claims to have inside knowledge, so we'll see if there's anything to it or not, that the Penguins are actively trying to move Phil Kessel, and even though he does have some control over his trade destiny through his contract, that he is okay with it. Like it looks as though that the report basically says that they're willing to part ways with each other, and both sides are content to do so. That Phil is ready for a fresh start, and that he hasn't been pleased. He has a bit of a rift with Coach Sullivan over, I guess, how he's been used, and he wants to be able to play with Malkin all the time, and he's been kind of shifted up and down the lineup, and he hasn't been pleased with how he's been used and how his line mates have worked out throughout the whole year. So anyways, I don't know if there's much truth to that. I know there has been some speculation that Phil Kessel is a guy that can be very difficult to coach. I'm not sure really how true that is, but I can see how it could have some truth to it, just based on how he carries himself and how you can see him on the bench a lot of times. You could see how that might be true, but I guess unless you're someone who's actually coached him or been a teammate of his, that you probably really wouldn't know that for sure. That's just speculation. But he's certainly a competitive guy, which you've seen him a lot of arguments on the bench over the years between Kessel and coaches and even his line mates at times as well. So I know when Rick Tocchet was in Pittsburgh as an assistant coach, it was widely reported as well that he kind of was a really good connection with Phil and kind of kept him in line and kind of just kind of made everything fit better and kind of kept everything at bay. And now that he's not there anymore, that things just aren't quite as good between him and Coach Sullivan, and that maybe both sides want a fresh start. Obviously, we know Kessel didn't have a great playoff. If you look at his point totals, they're decent. Look from that perspective, he was almost a point per game player. But really, he only had the one goal. In a lot of games I saw for the Penguins for the playoffs, he looked kind of invisible. Like he just wasn't really there. For somebody who put up 92 points in a regular season, had a fantastic regular season, a guy who's known for scoring lots of goals, he kind of disappeared in the playoffs. I know we've seen also reports between what Jim Rutherford said and what Coach Sullivan said kind of sort of contradicted each other. Rutherford said that Kessel had been battling injuries all year and he was banged up, and then Coach Sullivan said that he had some nicks and bruises like everybody else, but it was nothing significant. So those two comments kind of don't really jive well together. There seems to be some contradiction there. Now, I know a lot of times when seasons end, especially after a playoff run where success wasn't achieved, you do see a lot of questions come around injuries, asking if that played a role and impacted their performance and whatnot. And a lot of times teams are going to say, sometimes they will be a little bit more open about things since the season is over. But at the same time, I do think there is a possibility at times when they kind of say, yes, he's banged up, he's hurt, because they want to protect their reputation. They don't want to protect the player. They don't want to come out and just say, yes, he had a terrible playoff. He absolutely stunk out there. They're not going to come out and say that. So is it possible that maybe they were just kind of saying that just to kind of protect Phil because they didn't want to really get into it? Because really, at the end of the day, if somebody plays bad, you don't want to necessarily call them out when you need to, especially after a player with a long history of success. There's really no need of that. So it's just a kind of easier way to kind of avoid the question. So is there any truth around his injuries? It's really hard to say. Either way, these reports seem to indicate there's some friction between Kessel and the Penguins, and that maybe, just maybe, he'll be moved again this summer. So let me know your thoughts on the Kessel situation. Are we going to see him get traded this summer? And if so, where is a good destination? There's all kinds of teams always looking for scoring, and it's something that he can certainly provide. So I'm sure that if it is open and knowledge that he's on the market, that there's going to be plenty of teams inquiring to see if they can make it work. So let me know your thoughts about the Kessel situation down in the comments section. If you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams. There's plenty of great hockey content here for all fan bases to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you like this video, make sure you smash that like button as well. I'd really appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time.